Hello, Mercury through Christopher David Bora here, and I'm here to talk about some hard truths to swallow, I guess. Um, I wrote all these notes and everything, but fuck it, I'm going to wing it. And I'm not really here to tell you what you want to hear, here to tell you what you need to hear. And so there's a lot of people that are blue pilled that are going to be like, and whatever, but so, there's all sorts of fucked up shit happening on this planet. And a lot of it has to do with sex and underage sex. And, and yeah, a lot of this stuff is done by the Zeek, as I call them, or the Z's, you know. So, I don't know where to begin on this. I guess I could talk about my newly discovered sexual abuse that I just totally missed through my MK Ultra Project Monarch life. It's very similar to that South Park episode, Pinewood Derby, and that Kevin Zaxor, the ambassador of New Planet Testing, and like they stabbed him in the neck and shit. And so I'm an interesting spiritual creature, I just learned. And that's why I got so much shit at the Catholic school I grew up with. So I went to Notre Dame in Clarendon Hills, Illinois. And I have two roofie memories. One was in the church where I am restrained, and yet I'm surrounded by a whole bunch of people. One of them, I recall, was one of my classmates. There could have been more classmates, but I know Larry was there. And the second roofie recall I remember, I was in right above the front entrance of that Notre Dame church. There is an area where the choir sits or sings. And I was there, and I could see the little wooden pillars or the wooden things going across the ceiling holding it up, but I couldn't see anyone else. And that's probably because I was aware in the first time, and I saw all these people. I saw older students, I saw younger students, and I was a young student at the time. I only went here from kindergarten to third grade. I don't really remember any sexual contact because I apparently have an instant amnesia trauma response, which was evident when I was in my early 20s and I was at this party and someone had grabbed my crotch, and I remember everything that happened beforehand. I remember everything that happened afterwards, but it was like I faded out and I faded back in. It was strange, but that was like a little clue right there that I have that instant trauma response. I remember early on too that I was at this one friend house, and I was restrained in their basement, and I remember waking up restrained, and her mother was chanting something about like not making stuff work, and I think it was specifically not making love work. And then I got punched in the face by my friend, and I remember feeling different always after then. But I played it off as a dream, and I played these off all as a dream. Then what else? Oh yeah, there was a house a couple houses down from me when I was a little bit older. I lived on Iroquois Drive, the 11th house on Iroquois Drive. And it was this 7th house on Iroquois Drive that I had a roofie memory in their bed, in their bedroom. And then later into my adulthood, and I'm going to get back to that 7th house on Iroquois after this. And then in my 20s, I remember waking up a couple times to discover like there's a weird substance, on my penis, and I'm like, that was strange. And I just kind of played it off. And that happened twice. And so those are all really telling things. Now, jumping back to that seventh house on Iroquois Drive. So after repeatedly roofing, molesting me, and possessing me, because that's a real thing. And that's why I suspect the Z's want them to come to their little fake nation that's occupying Palestine now, so they could secretly possess people. All it takes is less than an hour, just like your photos, everybody, back in the 90s and everything. So they had magicians forced me into watching their daughter after doing all these things to me. And then their daughter, which was like a little girl, and I'm like a teenager, maybe young adult at this time. I don't quite remember because it's really hard to actually recall my early memories from like 20 years old ish and earlier. But anyway, my family might know more, but it's irrelevant. It doesn't really matter. So this little girl would be like, when I'm babysitting her, she's like, "Don't touch my special spots. Don't touch my special spots. Okay? Don't touch my special spots." And it was just like the most awkward thing. And so, yeah, those things happen to me. And yeah, and they were really attempts at manipulating me into what I feel was recruitment, but they do it in such a way where they could just pivot and be like, "Look, what are you talking about?" Because there's all this bullshit, eyes wide shut shit going on. Even till this day, I'm like, "Wait a second, did you just offer me your teenage daughter?" And they're like, "How dare you?" But they were like totally serious about it. And I'm like, and I'm just like, okay, fine. You live in a world where demons and angels are born, and not every family is an angel or an angelic family. There are demonic families too. And as a god creature, I guess, I don't like to say set in stone who could be with each other. Like, that's your people's fucking business and decisions and everything. And I guess the god creature is a little quiverful. Things were much easier before all this birth control shit. Because when your teenage daughters were getting knocked up by, dudes in their 20s, it was much easier to accept and handle these things. And there's, I think laws in some states, that reflect that, and so, yeah, I'm not trying to hook up. I'm trying to hook up with someone my own age. I will say that I do get lots of offers, I suspect, and keep it college. When I see Jerry Seinfeld at a high school, it's like, man, why don't you just fucking go over to the college, yo? But the Z's have a lot of demonic children. And as we can notice, when the Z's fucking are abusing Palestinians and Christians, they're like spitting on them and shit. They're going up to them and hitting them and shit, and they're getting off on it. They're getting off on it. And if you think it's any different with the sexual shit, it's not. They get off on that. And they use it for blackmail. So speaking of blackmail, when I was in my 20s and I had discovered, waking up a couple times that I just kind of, ignored, but somehow I made a mental note of, even though I can't remember all this shit, I remember just the relevant stuff, right? Just the important things, so I could piece the puzzle together. So I'm pretty sure that I had blackmail photos taken of when I was repeatedly being roofie molested into my adulthood, where you call it rape, by their children. So yeah, and you guys have a really big problem with that, because there's a lot of leaders that succumb to this or have some blackmail. And I'm really sick and tired of people talking about child porn. Like, are you talking about the makers of child porn, or are you talking about the FBI, showing child porn to your kids, and then they turn into teenagers that are airing, that turn into, young adults that could still be airing, because that stuff happened to me too. When I was a child, they're showing me picture books. They're showing me picture books in the 80s, and so yeah, in the end, I was in my 20s, and I had, some teenage stuff. But that was a long time ago. People would say that that's child, and I would say no. That was almost adult, actually. And that is much different than the shit the Z's are like, we can be technically with the 3 or 4 year old. And they do that shit. That shit that happened at the 7th house in Iroquois, that was a little girl. After repeatedly roofie molesting me. So I had done very well, even though some people would give me shit. They're like, yeah, you did something 2 decades ago, Chris, and you knocked it off. Whatever. I'm over it. The albastars, which are another form of demon that use sexual shaming, will not be over it. And that's a problem too, because I'm a greeter into hell. And let me get the one thing clear about Mercury here. They'll say I'm a trickster. Even though everything that I've experienced in my life has been people pulling tricks on me and trying to trick me, trying to Matt Gates me, with a underager. But, we got them a fake ID, and look, they're 18 and 19 years old. And those 2 incidences in my 20s, So, I'm about the child porn shit. I'm not into, copying and pasting your fucking, endless distractions and decoys. Focus on who's making it, if you really care about that stuff. Focus on who's making it, not who's copying and pasting it. Because as a deity and greeter into hell, it's like, well, did you harm any children? Was it non-consensual or anything like that? No, I got tricked into, MK Ultra'd into, watching some inappropriate stuff in my, early adulthood. Okay, next. That ain't nothing. Okay, you didn't harm anybody. That's a completely made up thing. And they use it for blackmail. And they could just put it on people's devices and shit. And say, oh, look at this. This is a great shame. Even though they're all having sex with children or underagers. I would say the ones that do, when the underager stuff does come my way, the almost adults is a lot more respectful than like sending me some 6 or 7-year-old like is really fucked up. It's like, oh my god, you got Matt Gates on a 16-year-old or with a fake ID, and that shit got brushed off, just like my shit is getting brushed off. All right, so they do these things, and people need to realize that demonic families are going to do these things. And out of all the acceptable things that, or things that could be acceptable, like I survived my sexual abuse. I didn't have no 2000 bomb shoved up my ass. I didn't get sniped by some Z in my face or some shit like that. All right, so I was able to survive it. So therefore, on the scale of crimes, it's kind of low. I didn't get eaten at some ritual as a child. There's tons of other things, horrible things that people go through to give people diseases. Like, how about the children miners that mine materials out of your fucking earth that get all sorts of diseases, barely make it to young adulthood? Lucky if they do. I wonder what the numbers are on that. I commune a lot with the spirit world, so I don't know actually all the numbers, but I know these things happen. Pardon me while I light a cigarette here. So they blackmail all your leaders and they groom them. And they groom them like this. And I turned out very well, even though some are going to be like, and I'm over it. I'm really over it. But this shit needs to be talked about. And I'm the designated asshole to talk about it. And a lot more other stuff. But we're getting to this because this is the one thing that's kind of holding up everything else. And this is the smallest pile of bodies they got. Because they blame shit that they do on fucking mice and rats and bears. They blame their bioweapon experiments or their fucking, monstrous creatures that actually are probably, I hate to use the word monstrous. Pardon if that's an insult. There are some creatures out there that would eat a human if it wanders into its territory. And I guess that is kind of fair, but that all this shit gets blamed on bears. And that's wrong. Because everyone's like, oh my God, a bear. But then I just saw like a YouTube video the other day. There's this kid, he was in this he was like teenager kid. There's this like down tree, I think, and this like little cave, little dugout area. And he was like chilling in there, and then a bear came by, and he was like, and then he's like moving real slow out of it and everything. And he's like recording, and he's like looking, at the phone and everything. And he's like recording the whole thing. And yeah, bears aren't that dangerous, actually. But a lot of bullshit, a lot of human bullshit gets blamed on bears, mice, rats, and other fucking creatures. Isn't that right? I fucking see. I rank higher than the fucking 13. I know. So, what to do? I was thinking the demons could demon and the angels could angel. Now there are very unacceptable demon things that they do. And they definitely get off on the blackmail and all that shit. They're like, well, we got, we roofied them and we took pictures with them, or we roofie molested them and then we had our daughters feel themselves up around them and they couldn't resist, and we used magic. And if you don't think magic is real, guess again. That shit is real. Very real. Because there was that one instance where I was in that bedroom, or that basement, sorry. And there was that family that was like, you're not going to make shit work. And that was the only thing I heard. I don't know what else, they said, what the magic spell was. I have no idea. But that was a possession. People possessed me. And I think this is the first year in my life, or at least earlier this year, around the end of winter, somewhere around there, beginning of winter, end of winter, I stopped seeing the jinn. They'll be like, you schizophrenic. But that shit is real. And that you could find videos of the jinn, in those little ghost channels, those ghost video channels, like That's Impossible and other things like Matrika occasionally features them. And there's all sorts of channels out there that feature that stuff. It's like Black Shadow, and they're just executing orders of the magic spell. Because there's a lot more to this world than you could see. So, anyway, since the demons enjoy it so much, I was thinking maybe one day we could get a point to where, instead of just secretly doing it and stabbing everyone in the back, and I know, you won't be able to use that for blackmail, and that's on the downside. It's like, I'm not going to please anybody, in this, but I'm not here to please anybody. I'm here to find a balance. I'm not here to endless war. Fuck your endless war. All right? We could achieve a nice balance. All right? People could go to Disneyland or World and buy the sexual ticket experience. And then the angelic families could go to Disneyland or Disney World and buy the non-sexual experience. And there you go. There's enough demons out there. And I'm really sick and tired of your fucking eyes wide shut shit. Like, did you just offer me your teenage daughter? How dare you? How dare you? No, I think you were just serious about that. Like, I saw that fucking movie. Like, that was about some real shit. And it doesn't, make them too bad. But these things need to be talked about. But in my little spot here in the park, there might be someone coming here. I don't know. I might have to pause this. So, they're moving on. I'm here to, be the messenger of the gods and to figure out why so many people are being tricked into hell. And that leads me to the child protectors that get fooled also. So there's a bunch of dudes out there. There were children being roofie molested. I only remember those 5 times. Right? Wait a second. There was the 2. Hang on. There's the 2 at Notre Dame. There was the one at in the basement, 7, and then the 2. Okay, there was 6. There were 6 times. There could have been a whole lot more than that. But all I could fucking remember is 6. 6 times. So let's just assume that's all it took. And I'm the one with divine protection and all this, all these things that I didn't know were protecting me. And I turned out well. But what about, other people? They get roofied, they get possessed. Magic cast on them and shit. That's not right. And then they turn over 18. And then that's when the molesters pass them off over to the child protectors. And they're like, oh, well, they leave out that they fucking did all this shit to them as a child. And then they're like, well, look, this one's a predator. You got to get on them. We tricked them into some digital data, and it's like really fucked up, and then it becomes a case of abusing somebody for life, and in this case, there is someone here, so I'm going to have to pause it. All right. So, as I was saying, tricking people into hell. Well, I tried starting that again, but I wrote a note here about tricking people into hell, which is something that they do. So they abuse someone as children, and then they pass them off to make the child protectors the actual pedophiles' cleanup crew, which doesn't cut it when you're being greeted into hell. Just so you know. That doesn't fly. Like when you're passing the mantle, between each other with, abuse. That adult that got abused as a child, that's not right. Now, that tricks people, in the way that they do it, into thinking that they're doing good. But they're really not. And the world is actually a lot more like that than you think it is. With all the lies. And you need 2 lies for that lie. Then you need 4 lies for that lie. Then 8. Then 16. And then it starts getting the fuck out of control, exactly like that fucking South Park episode, the Pinewood Derby episode. We just keep on lying and lying and lying and acting like trash, you know, and that doesn't give people the right to do that, and especially for the Dexter types. You know, you got to save that energy for people that actually murder, because that is not recoverable. I was able to recover from my sexual abuse, which means that what a lot of other people suffer when they lose their limbs and they get horrible diseases and die at young ages, have a fucking 2,000-pound bomb shoved up their ass, that's all worse than what I suffered. And yes, there's the teenage stuff that, the Epstein stuff. And I'm not saying that they're not victims or that I don't have sympathy, but they were raised in a society that was chase money, 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 money. So they were doing that as teenagers, and they decided to do some sexual stuff. And then later in life, people told them this was the most horrible abuse ever. You're not going to train your abuse like that. You're not going to train people into thinking that they got abused. You know, no, that doesn't fly either. So people could change their minds, of course. And yes, I think they can consent, because there's all sorts of younger people fucking consenting to life-risking things just to get a fucking meal. Help their family out with water. You saying they can't consent? They're all being abused? And they actually are being abused, but they're being abused by the Z's, not by their fucking families. You know, so these are uncomfortable things to talk about. And I'm very terribly sorry that Virginia, I'm spacing out on her name, Virginia Gruffin got murdered, very likely, I suspect. Because she made a deal with demons for money. Because she still had that money thing. You see? Patterns of behavior. Right there. She took a deal for money. Keep her mouth shut. For money. And she didn't keep to that. So they... And that's the same shit she did when she was a teenager. Chasing the money. Alright? Let me move my leg here. It's starting to get stiff. So yeah. I'm not saying she deserved to be murdered either. But when we're more open about these things, and you're like, okay, well, fine. The demons have their little sexual thing at what you guys got taught in appropriate ages, and there are the demons that go way inappropriate. I think the stuff that was highlighted in Eyes Wide Shut with the almost adults is a lot more palpable than some fucking, 6-year-old child that the Z's fucking do. I'm not saying I'm trying to do that. I am saying that people have done that to me, People have offered me, and I'm like, again, repeatedly, I'm like, wait a second, did you just offer me? And they're like, how dare you? And it's like, wait a second. You're eyes wide shutting me, aren't you? So, as a God creature, I don't like to say who could be with who. But when it gets too old with the too young, that's some extreme fucking greed, right there. There's not enough, younger classmates, there's not enough classmates of that person to, finger or jerk off. What? To play with? That sounds really, really greedy. Like having a fucking $1 trillion. Greedy. So I don't like to say who can and can't, because a few hundred years ago, you guys were, more acceptable with the almost adults, with some young adults. I would say almost adults with young adults. What the fuck ever. There's some college person with a teenager. I got some real fucking problems to fucking deal with, you know, and you all do too, instead of getting hung up on, you know, stupid shit. So these are, you know, things that neither side wants to hear, actually. They're like, no, we like framing people and blackmailing them and murdering them. And then the other side's like, how dare? And it's like, dude, I don't know how I'm going to tie all these videos together, but I'm terribly sorry. I'm having technical issues and I'm not so professional with the videos. But as I was saying, you know, about dude or miss, you just gotta, it's nice to care about the world, all right? But you gotta fucking focus about your family. Because when you start focusing on all this child protection shit, the demons are just so good at manipulating, or narcissists, or whatever the fuck you want to call them, that they're gonna trick you into abusing someone that was already abused before they were 18. And then they're just gonna pass them off to the 18 and up people. So just focus on your family, or your little circle, all right? And it's nice to care about the world, but you can't tell the demons what to do like that. You know, yes, okay, they like murdering too. But out of the acceptable things where people could survive it, and they enjoy it. Like, you see the glee on the children that abuse Palestinians or Christians or Catholics there. They get the same sort of glee out of the sexual stuff too. I guarantee you. But they don't admit it. And then they weaponize it. And then all your leaders are fucking captured by it. And so if everyone just calmed down a little bit, just focus on them and their family, instead of getting in everyone's business and getting manipulated and tricked into hell, maybe things would be a little bit nicer here. Because you manifest reality too. So when you start abusing someone that was abused for life, and then your whole world looks like shit around you, because you're manifesting that. So why don't you knock it off? Is all. These are the hard to talk about things. But I'm the designated asshole to talk about them. Or at least one of them. So I hope I have given you guys some insight, you know, into some of the stuff they do. And they do it on a mass scale. They do it on a mass scale. They're like, oh, you're not going to bust us elite, you know, pedophiles. But look, we'll molest an extra amount of you. And then when those turn into erring adults and everything, then we're just going to direct the child protectors their way. Which is why the Catholic Church molests so many people and they get fucking protection from the government and the elites. It's like, what the fuck? Yeah, you know, if a demonic family wants to take their, you know, kids over to the fucking orgy and have a weird experience, that's their fucking business. It ain't yours. All right? On top of, you know, other acceptable things that demons do, which I think China and Russia does, you know, is scare the shit out of people. You know, pranks and all that. China has those sky bridges, and you could notice in some of these videos there's like someone just standing completely still, you know, as someone is walking through the sky bridge, that it makes it look like it's cracking underneath them, and people fucking freak out and get scared, and they feed off that energy. That is, you know, there are better ways to manage these things instead of this endless war nonsense that you fucking all getting caught up in. You know, achieving balance, not endless war. Fuck your endless wars. Fuck your fucking system. Fuck your fucking scripts. Y'all just need to readjust. And yeah, sometimes angelic families have demonic children. But when you do these things openly, and sometimes demonic families have angelic children. And when you do these things openly, then people could switch sides without all this covert murder bullshit. Which I know that's another minus for the demons. But y'all going to just have to learn to accept it and get along better. A better management of this fucking place. Because our makers are really not happy. Alright, that's about all I gotta say. You know? So yeah. Hope I've given you some food for thought. You guys have a lovely day or evening or night or whatever. And, I catch you in the next video, I guess. Peace the fuck out. I wanted to also add that, like, when you learn to better accept these things and whatnot, then your leaders will be freed up from the blackmail and extortion gun to their head to do the right thing. But you can't even get past the smallest pile of bodies, because there are much bigger piles of bodies than this shit. All right, that they'll probably never admit to. But if we at least get past this, then we can make some progress. All right, we may never see those bigger pile of bodies, but let me tell you, the gods notice that you're fucking blaming a bunch of human shit on animals, innocent animals. They don't like that shit either, just so you know. So hopefully we can all get past this shit and free up some of your extorted leaders. Maybe some of them were roofied in their 20s and they had some fucking underager fucking, take pictures with them. Like in my case. Maybe the Z's are fixing up my fucking photos where I look all like passed out and shit, so I look like awake, with their AI. But I know that I never did anything like that. They tried, but if they ever come forward and be like, look, we got this blackmail on Christopher Moore here, I know it's going to be complete bullshit, and I'll know who had raped me in my 20s. Anyway, have a lovely day or evening or night or whatever it is to you. Peace the fuck out. And then a last little quickie to add to this video. I do apologize. But then I notice all these people. They're like, oh my god, all the pedos. They're in is Ra's hell. And I'm like, well, I can't think of a perfect place for them to be because that's where they fucking offer and do it. But then they mask it, all right, as one of you. And then they trick all you, and then, like I said, it's about balance, not this endless war bullshit. Fuck all your endless war on the light side and the dark side. Achieve balance. So, yeah, I wanted to add that. I'm like, and maybe new is Roshell should be on the Rothschild Island. And if that's too much for the space aliens, then maybe just the tip of Florida. And let that be the only time in history that it was ever the tip. And I'll suspect that if the aliens, I don't care what the Rothschilds think, but if the aliens don't agree to it, then maybe the tip of Florida. And then I have a sneaking suspicion if that's where the new is Roshell is going to be, then there'll be less severe hurricanes hitting that area. Strange, wouldn't that be? So yeah, you guys got way more bigger issues to deal with. Things that are trying to fucking kill you off en masse and shit. Get your shit together. Worry about your family. And, much luck with you and yours and everything. I hope that you're not, being tricked into abusing one's children, that were abused for life, essentially. So that's fucked up. I do apologize. I keep adding to this, but there's another thing about those, adults or abused children that turn into adults. They don't. They don't even remember that they got roofied and molested. I am fortunate enough to fucking. I'm a special creature that rarely dreams, and I only dream true things. Apparently, when I do. Anyway, you could take that as you want, but a lot of these people they don't even remember. And the Albastars, they're another form of demon that uses sexual shaming. They're like the opposite of the succubus. And then, the succubuses and Albastars could all, start looking like fucking gremlins and shit where they're like, castrate the fucking pedos. It's like, look, if you guys are able to achieve balance, there's a perfect place for them to visit at least, Go to Is Ra's Hell, and go get your rocks off over there where they allow that stuff, you know? And then you could come back to normal society and shit, you know? But they're like, yeah, castrate the pedos and shit. And it's like, why aren't you fucking saying that about child killers? How about castrate those? You know, like, but that's that Alistar energy that people get sucked in by. They're like, yeah, let's get you, but you're being pulled in by another demon. Is the thing. There's, Carl Sagan wrote a wrote a book with a very telling title called Demon Haunted World. So you need to learn to accept the light and the dark in this world in a better fashion. Will it stop murders and everything? Should murders still be illegal? Yes. But I think families have the right to do, their weird things the way they see fit. Otherwise, everything's going to get like perverted, twisted, and y'all going to be manipulated, into a hell for yourselves, and maybe you should knock that off and just, kind of focus on yours. Again, it's okay to care about the world. All right. But, when you get in families' business, they don't like that. And the angels don't like it when the demons manipulate them. All right. So, all right. I felt like I'm like, oh my God, I forgot to say that those fucking children that grew into adults can't even remember their abuse. They can't even fucking remember their abuse, and then other people are coming down on them and shit. That's really fucked up when you really think about it. All right. Well, peace the fuck out. Sorry I had to talk about all this fucked up stuff, but this is the light stuff. This is the smallest pile of bodies. All right. Just so you know. So anyway, you guys take care. I do so apologize. I could talk about this shit for hours, really, and I can't really find anyone to talk about it with me. But yeah, I wanted to mention the stuff about Epstein because there is way worse stuff than is on the surface there. But with like the teenagers and adult things, there are far worse sexual abuses that go on. And to just name a quick example, because it popped into my head when I was having a cigarette just a short while ago. I heard a story. A guy kidnapped 3 children, kept them in his basement for a little more than a decade, I think. And that shit was way worse than what those women fucking went through. All right? They were chasing money as teenagers. All right? And the stuff that, so yeah, and that shit should definitely be punished. And maybe you guys should focus on that stuff. And I wanted to reiterate the stuff about hell because you guys live in a hellish world. And then you have these children that are abused that they don't even know that they've been abused on a mass scale, like they do like millions of children. All right, make a bunch of decoys so the people are fighting the people. And then they turn 18 and then they know the perfect person, the perfect group of people to go to. They're like all the child protectors. Well, how about the janitor clean up service crew, clean these guys up. And then you manifest hell because you think you're doing good. But you're actually contributing to someone's lifelong torture and torment. And then these damaged, erring people, if you guys could achieve a balance, will have a place to go. Go visit Israel's island on the Rothschild Island, or wherever it could be agreed upon with the aliens roaming around here. There are definitely aliens roaming around here. And then, then they would have a place to go. And then, you guys could focus on actual things instead of manifesting your hell. Because when you pick up abusing someone after they turn 18, when they were abused before they were 18, you're just contributing to manifesting hell without realizing it. Because the demons, or narcissists, or whatever the fuck you want to call them, but they are demons, are really, 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 really good at manipulation. They got you guys beat on that shit. And they've been manipulating you guys for thousands of years. So I really hope you guys wake up to this, and then you could, redirect your attention on, actual, crimes and everything instead of this copy and paste bullshit. This endless copying and pasting where the FBI and CIA are showing all your kids child porn and shit, but you're never fucking focused on the makers. And then they use that shit for blackmail, and then they install it on people's devices. Like, it's really fucked up. Like, what the fuck is going on this planet? And so I'm here to help figure it out for you guys. So, and these are, again, tough conversations to have and things to think about. I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need to hear. So yeah, and then hopefully we could, get past this one hurdle that seems to be holding everything else up, on your fucking planet. And especially the hell manifesting, I wanted to add. The emphasis on that. Although I think I spoke about it earlier, I haven't really put this video together, all these clips, and looked over it, and I probably won't. I'm just going to tie it all together and upload it. And you guys could, talk your shit or whatever the fuck, but yeah, or actually have some enlightenment, and be like, oh my God, I never really thought of it like that. Because, you probably haven't. Because you get caught up in emotion. When you get emotional and really like, oh my God, then you're not thinking clearly. And then you're even more easy to manipulate, and just kind of worry about your family. And there are more than just angels and demons. I mistakenly call them NPCs. They consider themselves soulless. I've seen a few of them on the Twitters. And they would be actually neutrals. And they feel they are soulless because they are just so disconnected with all the poisons and all your foods and products and water and the fucking EMF signals running around this damn place. They're so disconnected. They would be neutrals. They are not a demon or an angel, but they are just here to help move things along for the demons and angels. All right. So, anyway, I do apologize. I keep on shutting this off and turning it back on, and I'm like, oh man, I forgot this, and then I forgot that, and I forgot this and that. But yeah, so yeah, I hope everything came out all right. I'll leave details, I guess, in the description of something that I, maybe misspoke on or some shit, down below, I guess, or up above. Maybe they change it years from now, and the thing's going to be above instead of below. I don't know. So anyway, you guys take care. I hope this gets you thinking though, because you guys do that on a mass scale, and they just straight like on a mass scale manifesting your hell, and you're torturing people that have been tortured for life, and that doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it right. All right, so and then maybe there's a place where these people can go, which is raw hell. Seems to be the perfect place to go, to do that sort of stuff. So, and then you should let them have it. So then, you guys could achieve a balance instead of forever war. Fuck your spiritual warfare bullshit. Should have some balance. God fucking damn it. Anyway, so, yeah, just some food for thought. All right, just thinking. Fuck, endless war. And this is part of it. And this is the tiniest hurdle to get past, all right? Because they're way worse shit. And yeah, I had to add in that story about that monster that kidnapped 3 children and they turned into adults. He held them so long. Because, when you're focusing on all this petty shit and this copy and paste bullshit, then you're not focusing on that real evil, dark shit. All right? Get your shit together. Thank you. Please, and thank you. All right. Have a good one. Bye. I really do apologize about keep on tacking on to this video here. I hope Jimmy Dore could see this. At least I think it'll be about an hour. You could totally increase the time or the speed of the video to save time. So Jimmy Dore came to Denver in 2024 last year, but he was scared by all the fucking succubus and Abelstar and demonic shit that was happening. And I do live in a Waco, Texas situation. Although I'm not like trying to like brainwash like people into like, yeah, give me your like total underage daughter and shit, you know. But they do make offers because I'm like a deity in human form. So they do that weird stuff, which I just play off now as just flattering. But I remember when he was at the show in 2024 in Denver at the Oriental Theater. He was all like, yeah, fucking Kyle Rittenhouse fucking executed some pedos and shit. That is not proportional. That's not. And then, you know, as I was talking about earlier in this video, manifesting your hell. So then you go way disproportionate, and then you look around and you're like, why is our world hell? Because of shit like that. Because did those people or pedos or whatever you want to call them kill anyone? Then you don't have the right. That's just that. I know everyone gets all emotional and you don't want to get shamed by the fucking Alba stars and everything, right? You know, because they start screaming like little gremlins and shit. But that's not proportional, you know? And another hard truth to swallow here is probably decriminalizing that type of porn. Because I'm not saying, you know, it's just so like everyone just run free reign and everything. They use it for blackmail. All my shit's hacked with the Pegasus fucking bullshit. Or almost all of it. They can install whatever the fuck they want on my shit whenever the fuck they want. And they can do that to all your leaders or anyone they want to remove off the board. All right, anyone that's not complying with their bullshit, they could just so you're going to be like, yeah, criminalize this thing so you could use it for blackmail and, you know, extorting all our fucking leaders. Like Bernie Sanders, they're like, yeah, if you don't fall in line, Bernie, people are like wondering about Bernie and everything. And it's like, dude, he's totally extorted. Totally extorted. If his children aren't threatened, he's threatened with something like this. So why would you give him a tool to fucking do that? And to remind people, you know, in the deity world, when you appear before the gods and you get asked this stuff, you're like, yeah, you're watching some digital material, even though you didn't, you know, directly harm anyone. They're going to move on. That isn't even going to be a fucking issue. So why isn't it an issue here? You know, because you've been trained. I know, you know, and there's a lot of people that wouldn't even seek that shit out if it did get decriminalized. It's like there's all sorts of legal alcohol all over the place here, and I just don't drink because it doesn't appeal to me. It lowers your vibration, you know, apparently. And I was never a big drinker. My major drink at bars is always like water, you know, because I usually dance and I get sweaty and shit, and I just want water. You know, so yeah, all because there's a bunch of alcohol. There's a fucking alcohol store. I could go, you know, like a couple blocks from here. Not even. It's like a block and a half, you know, and I go get some alcohol, but I don't because it just doesn't appeal to me. And all because people fucking like yes manned me, you know, and did really evil things to me in my childhood, and I did some stupid stuff in my early adulthood. Doesn't mean shit, you know. Doesn't it actually reflects more on them than it does on me, you know, because all the hyping up and everything, and then trying to, you know, use this thing that is technically like really petty. It is like you guys got bigger fucking fish to fry on this goddamn planet than this shit. So are you going to leave it as a tool for people to just like all the Israels, to just hack everyone's device and extort everyone? Or are you going to take that away from them? You should take that away from them because that's what it's about. Removing that form of blackmail, is what it's really about. And you don't get the right to fucking, murder people because you feel they sexually transgressed a little bit. There are far worse. You know what? Who deserves, to be, executed? That dude that kidnapped those three girls that turned into adults and kept them in his basement for more than a decade. That person deserves to be executed. But someone, getting roofie molested in their childhood and then having their children feel themselves up around them in their adulthood, and if they err or something like that, that is not proportional at fucking all. Just so you hear from a deity here, the messenger of the gods. So stop tricking yourselves into hell and stop manifesting a hell like in these ways. And you guys give them an easy tool, an easy digital tool. They just copy and paste you guys into endless fucking decoys and distractions where the people are fighting the people for fucking ever. And you're never busting the ones at the top. It's always, this downward punching bullshit. And occasionally you get one, right? Like that George Zim guy. Okay, maybe you got him on that, That's still not worth it. That's still not worth having all your leaders or potential leaders extorted like this and blackmailed. Is it? I know people want to get all emotional, but the smart thing to do is just let it go so you can focus on bigger fucking fish on this damn planet. You're fucking killing the planet. And you can't even fucking focus on that. Fucking focused on this endless, copying and pasting digital shit. Fuck that shit. All right? And fuck the fuck off with all that blackmail and extortion shit. You give them a tool to do that. All right? Now, if someone fucking, came into your fucking family's house or had like one of your family members over and they like roofied them or whatever and took naked pictures, all right, yeah, that should be a crime. All right, but just this endless copying and pasting. Oh, we found data. Da 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 da. Yeah, you know what? 90%, are kind of like innocent, and they don't really do anything. But like, look at this digital data through the safety screen. But there's 10% that actually like do shit with children, and a lot of them are doing it with the Z children that are actually into it. It's a fucking mess. It's a fucking mess, and no one wants to talk about it. Everyone wants to be emotional and get all fucking riled up and hysterical and shit. So then you're even more easy to manipulate and to jerk around. And then you're fucking killing people and shit. And then, again, you're just manifesting hell. What about that person that was roofie molested multiple times as a child? And all because they turn 18 years old. It gives people the right to hot potato, endlessly abuse upon them? No. No, that does not. That is way out of line. So maybe you guys could get back in line and actually focus on the real shit. Like dudes that would kidnap children and keep them in their basements for a long time instead of this copy and paste bullshit. I'm still not impressed with that George Zim shit. He should be charged with obstruction of justice for, being such a decoy and all that shit. I'm not impressed by all that digital, fucking shit. I'm not. That, technically, that shit could have been planted. So it probably wasn't. It was probably that little percentage of time. It almost sounds like those Iraqi fucking, casualty numbers. They're like, yeah, we fucking, 90%. And it will probably be more than that. 90% were innocent civilians, but hey, we got 10% that were, we considered, bad guys. those numbers fucking suck. Look at yourselves. You know, and then that's reflected in the wars too, right? Because you do that on a smaller scale, and then on a grander scale that happens. See, because the demons manipulate you. The narcissists and everything, they're so good at manipulation that they manipulate you into doing evil things while you're thinking you're doing good, and then you manifest a greater hell. So maybe you should knock it the fuck off. You know, and the only solution I see to this, to get rid of this blackmail shit, is to just decriminalize it. You know, and it's the only way to really proceed. It's the only way to really proceed, because otherwise they're just going to keep on, you know, secretly installing on people's computers that they want to take off the board good potential leaders of yours. You know, but they're all, you know, extorted and blackmailed. So then you just get trash. You just get fucking trash. Well, maybe you should do something to fix that, because that's one of their major tools that they fucking use. Use your fucking heads. And it's nice to have heart. But use your fucking heads. Focus on your fucking family. Don't worry what the demons are doing with their fucking family. You know, that's their fucking demonic fucking thing, just like you do your little angelic shit. And then we could achieve a fucking yin-yang balance, instead of constantly swinging the pendulum always violently in this stupid war bullshit. Alright? That's all. Alright? Yeah, you don't have the right to kill people because they fucking, you know, some sort of sexual transgression, in most cases. In most cases. I gave you the example of the really severe shit, because that dude constantly impregnated those fucking little girls, and they constantly fucking punched them in the stomach to force them to have a fucking miscarriage and shit. That rises to the level. But also there's demons that willingly do this stuff, and the demons that willingly do this stuff amongst their circle, you don't have the right to fucking just execute them for that either. All right? Balance. Think balance. All right? Please. I can't do the prayer thing, but please, you know, do the balance, you know, instead of, you know, violently swinging the pendulum to either side, because it's, you know, fuck your spiritual warfare bullshit. We're going to achieve harmony and balance, and that means accepting some hard to swallow truths. All right? Well, I wanted to make sure to add this last little bit about that. So I hope Jimmy Dore sees that, and, you know, fuck you for ignoring me. I wasn't trying to fucking be a little bitch fucking politician. I didn't realize that's the direction I was being steered in at the time last year. I'm thinking the first and last steward of America would probably be best, instead of being a little bitch president. So, because that's, you know, the way they have things set up right now. So yeah. Anyway, you guys take care. And peace the fuck out. This is hopefully the last little edition that I have here. Oh my god. I really hope this is the end of the video, you know, because I keep on adding on to it. But yeah, like I said, I could talk about this shit for fucking ever, because you guys gotta, you know, move past this too. Because this is the smallest hurdle that you have, you know, to get to the bigger shit. So please, you know, think about it. Try not to be too emotional so you could think and see clearly, all right? Because there's no other way around this, you know, blackmail, extortion thing that they got going on right now. So that's your best advice. And, you know, I'm the designated asshole to talk about these things, so there, I'm talking about them. I actually have been meaning to write a book for the past year and a half about all this stuff, but I'm having a hard time with it, and I'm having a hard time recalling my early years. It's almost akin to being constipated, where I have to struggle really, really hard to even just come up with, like, you know, a little nugget of memory. And it's way more than other people. So I'm do apologize. I'm struggling with this book. But I need to talk about this stuff somehow. And I've been meaning to talk about this. And, I have my thoughts clear on this. And it's just best to, do these things I suggest. So then you could free up your good potential leaders and stop the blackmail and extortion and achieve a better balance. Stop manifesting hell, for yourselves, and on, So I think, it's uncomfortable, but if you think about it, it makes sense. So there you go. I hope you guys have a good, blessed day, and peace the fuck out.